So thank you. I move about a bit, and that's because it's the last day, and you might have had a good night last night, and I need to keep you awake. It's better than looking after lunch. So you're looking at newbie phantom guy. I'm literally 4 days in, and I haven't even been to headquarters yet, so I'm up here presenting. But sort of plug orchestration and automation. But I'm not here to plug product. I'm here to help with the process of the unexpected and data breach resilience, basically. So it's a management track, not too technical. You know, I'm not going to go down into reverse engineering malware, sorry. This is all about how to position your organization, yourself, and how to measure your ability to respond to the unexpected. Okay, if I push a button, I'm pushing a button. Oh, look, there it is, bing, okay. Okay, so I'll do this all the time when I'm so it wakes you up. So this is what I'm trying to do. I've got 25 slides and basically 44 minutes, so no falling asleep because I've got to move fast on this. But obviously, what I want to try and do is show you how you can present security differently. A lot of times you've probably heard we need to translate security terms into business terms. And for anybody who's tried to explain security to somebody or explain something new, you have to put it in terms that resonate with them. And so this is a model that will help that. And one of the things I found really interesting, I've worked in multiple industries providing security, and I've always learned something new, whether it was telco or manufacturing or critical infrastructure or law enforcement. All of these things have given me insight into a new way of thinking about doing this. And this was something I saw that was very, very valuable, and I thought it's a new way of presenting effectively how resilient you are. Okay? I want it to make you think. So I know you might have had a good night last night, but I want the brain cells to be moving a little bit, okay? And it's all about trying to get executive support because we need the businesses to understand what we need to do, and we need them to understand why we keep coming to them saying we need to do this. It never stops. Anybody completed their security vision? Anybody finished all their projects and they've run out? No, there's always more for us to do, okay? And there's that thing about connecting logical security with physical security. I'm not talking converged security, that dream where we run together, the guards are running out there in the car parks and you're sitting there with a mouse. I've done that. To be honest, they have their guns and you have a mouse. It's not very intimidating. So, you know, that. But really, you know, when I talk about the known and the unknown, this is your worst case scenario. Typically nowadays, you're implementing technologies which protect you against known things. You build your SOCs, your process flows, your playbooks, based on the fact you know something, hopefully, it's going to block before you have to do anything. The automation, whether it's signatures or advanced threats or any of that sort of stuff. So rarely, if you're in a good place, what you're now doing is having lots of fun and looking for the unknowns, which, if you don't know, you'll miss. I've presented here 3 times, and I always say, ignorance is not bliss for security people. We need to know everything, right? And the other problem is sometimes our processes fail. Nothing is perfect. A known will get through because we can't control everything, and we have to have the mechanism. So all my sort of philosophy about building SOC teams and stuff like that is all about how to prepare for the unknown. I can have some good ideas of swim lanes and process flows, etc., but it's all about detecting the unknown and reacting appropriately. So, I heard this talk. There's an organization, I don't know if they have in Canada, called InfraGard. It's all FBI physical security people, and I go there because it's kind of interesting, and I learn things. And this was Costas University up in Massachusetts, and they had the FBI and the FEMA team presenting this, and it's just a fascinating thing. And I thought, but they all talked about how they could, you know, stop flooding and stuff like that. And I thought, a lot of this resonates with how I want to talk to the executives about. And I want to give executives something tangible to think about. Now, why do I talk about this? That's me. Somebody said I need to update my photograph. Do I look different from that? I haven't aged, have I? I'm a little bit grayer, but what the hell? It's only 4 years ago. But I've been doing IT for a long time. I'm a geek. I'm a recovering developer. I hate programming, but I learn a language a year. I don't know why. And to be honest, nowadays you need to have Pythonistas. I hate Python as well. I hate indenting and tabs and all that crud. It's like, ugh, I hate it. But it's a necessary evil. I've done lots of development. I have been a DJ, yes. I'm not going to mix. One of these days, I'm going to turn up at Countermeasure with my whole mix deck and sync to DJ a presentation. And the audio people will just hate me. But I've done a fair amount of security in a variety of different environments with a variety of different organizations. These are the large ones, but I've also worked with small ones. I've worked with small incidents. All the same rules apply. So that's why I'm up here talking to you, because I want to share my experience, my knowledge, and help you. I'm a mentor. I've created, I don't know, I think 12 CISOs now. Why they want to become CISOs, I have no idea. Don't do it. I've been Fortune 5 CISOs, critical, all that sort of stuff. It's a journey, but some people think that's the... But what happens is you become a CISO, and then afterwards, after you've done your tour of duty, you go back to being normal. Okay. So this analysis that they presented was based upon physical things. These are actual pictures of flooding. Now, I know this is Canada, and I couldn't find a unique picture of an ice storm because there's just so many of them. Okay, right. But this is what they were basing their knowledge on, and this is the experiences learned. That's a telco. Telco's not too happy about that, right? A little bit of water damage, right? Obviously, transport got hit hard. I mean, I was working for a financial exchange, the director of SOC down there, and half the subways were closed. And you'd walk around the city, and there'd be these huge generator trucks powering the buildings for people's apartments for months and months and months. Amazing. Now, whoops, one too many. Now, it's not just based upon. Hurricane Sandy caused lots of issues. It disrupted things. Now, okay, we're not talking about 40, luckily people don't die typically in our incidents. I was happy to say I've never had somebody die on one of my incidents. Hopefully, you don't want that to happen. But it caused a lot of things. But a lot of these things, 8 million people without power. I was talking to somebody yesterday, and what happens if our infrastructure disappears? How do we handle that? How do we recover, right? So they really had problems, and they weren't prepared, and they weren't anticipating. And they had no way of knowing how effective they were. Now, because of that, they also did forward thinking. Now, I'm a Bostonian, so I have a car, okay? I can't do an American accent for love nor money. I've tried for 14 years, I can't do it. But I can do a Boston car in a pack, right? But they also, so Boston's by the water, and the sea's rising. So they're kind of anticipating how the hell do we handle it when Boston floods? It's like a great position, not when have we been hacked, but we will be hacked. What can we do to be prepared for it? Wouldn't you love that in your world for the business people? Okay, well, we won't get hacked. I spent $27 million on we won't get hacked. So what they did was they looked at this, and then they came up with this graph. Okay, math people, you must be buzzing about this. D3, yes, I know. Oh, that's a terrible language. What they did was they realized that if a flooding happens, and it can happen very quickly, if a hurricane comes sweeping up the coast, on the East Coast, it can actually create a wave that will flood in literally hours. And you need to evacuate everybody out of that building. Well, sorry, city. Forget a building, a bloody city. But they realized that they had to focus their attention on specific, where are my critical points? How do I assess which train stations are most critical for getting people out of the city? Because I can't, when the flooding happened in New York City, they kind of said, well, we'll get boats off people. Now, when 9/11 happened, that was a very, very unique situation. What happened, a call went out to the Marine Channel saying, anybody who's going to boats, can you get over to the island, pick somebody up and take them across to New Jersey? It's like the American equivalent of D-Day, Ballyhoo. But basically, that kind of reaction can be anticipated. And I had people saying, well, we'll use Wi-Fi hotspots and we'll get a bus across to New Jersey when it happens again. No. You have to map out where your critical things. So they've started thinking about this. But all these things were like trying to look at how to do it. But then they said, okay, great, how do I measure that? How do I know if that's going to be effective or not? That's a great pattern on where the criticality is. They know the people, the locations. the demographics, they want to get people. Those are the, how many? 7 stations that they're going to focus on, making sure they got all the equipment to keep it running, dry, and the train's running out of there. Impressive. So, as a result of all these problems that they have, opportunities, the United States, I had to put US, it's kind of funny, I had to put US president in, because I'm not in the US. But they came up with this sort of mandate saying that they want resilience. And they all these buzzwords, and I thought, well, I love this. This is all security, prepare, adapt, withstand, recover, attack, accidents. Those are all the things that we deal with on a daily basis. So that's what they were tasked with doing. And so it's a white paper, so you can download it if you want to, right? But we have our own equivalent to disasters. And for anybody who's a hardware, this is going to hurt you. Watching this video of the chip frying is going to hurt, okay? But we have, I don't know what the dink is. I'd love to know what the dink is in the video, but there's a dink. But basically, you can cut it down. It's going to drop you off the wall. You know, we have our own equivalents of flooding, of disasters, of problems. We've got ransomware. I know that's a hot subject here. It's not going away. It's going to keep coming. I'm sorry. It's something because everything can get in. DDoSes, Akamai is saying they're seeing the larger volumes. That Myra thing, massive volumes. And there are new techniques. There's a new one. Oh, what's it called? It's called a slow. There's a new attack. Really, one computer can take out a firewall by itself. Massive firewall. You can have a massive firewall, and it just does one little query, and for some strange reason, the firewalls just go into loop hell. And it's just come out a couple of days ago. Obviously, IoT. That's a journey. You've all heard about how somebody's worked out how they can put a piece of malware on one of the light bulbs, screw it into the light bulb nearby, and it's a mesh. And then all the other bulbs get infected. Wonderful, love it. And obviously there's physical security. We have to worry about that and human error. So how are you feeling? You feeling depressed yet? Yes, as you probably know, if you ever do 10-minute presentations, I start you here. I make you totally depressed, and then hopefully I give you happiness and joy at the end. That's the idea, okay? So, obviously, this is one of my little things. If you want to show you're successful, you have to be able to measure it, and you have to measure it in terms that resonate with the business. It's a bit like career path. If you have a set of objectives in your career, and it's written down, hit those objectives. The other things might be hurting you, and you might feel they're totally passionate and you need to do them, but at the end of the year, they're measuring your performance on those objectives they wrote down. So you measure things, but how to measure security? And in a way for executives, right? This, by the end of this presentation, will mean success to you and to the executives you present to. This is, oh my God, you are brilliant people. You are amazing. Are you confused yet? Yes. I'm not, because I'm presenting, right? So the other thing is I was at the EDS General Motors CISO, and they put us on a training course, and they said the human brain can only focus on 3 things at once, right? So you focus on 3 things, and you have probably missed those 3 cards. There were 3 cards there, and if you had a good night last night, you're focusing on that that glass of scotch up top, okay? But I always try and break things down into 3 because it makes it manageable. Now, I do break the rules because I have a 3, and then I have a 3, and a 3, but the 3 things combine together for a single activity. So that's kind of the principle behind it. And it's a great enabler for your career and everything you want to do. So, so anybody want to go out? It's together, yeah. Obviously not too bad a night last night. So when they came up with this idea, there are 5 ways of presenting your ability to impact your cyber resilience. Cushionability. It's not an English word, but it kind of resonates. And you can say, well, our cushionability. I must be honest, I have yet to present this to an executive and say, well, our cushionability factor is, it doesn't quite right, but it's a way of presenting it in an idea, okay? You have resistance. And I'm going to find each one of these and take you through. Robustness, logical. Redundancy, and graceful extension. That's a calming influence animation. You should be feeling calm now. So those 5 factors impact your ability for cyber resilience. So what I've done is I've got each one of these slides, pretty graphic, so it resonates with you for the people who are visual. I've got key things you need to have in place from my perspective, and this is just the beginning process, and 3 things that you need to be proactive. If you have those 3 things, plus these texts and these approaches, hopefully this resonates for you, right? So cushionability, it literally is the cushion. How gracefully can I collapse and not destroy the business, right? And for us, it's, okay, if I want to gracefully degrade my service, what do I have to do? Switch off my non-essential services. So like, for example, I had a situation where there was a bit of a muck-up. We kind of shut down the wrong firewall, and it all went to be wrong. And what I really wanted to do is I wanted to shut down to the required services. So I needed them to have a rule set in place to actually be able to say, okay, I'm being DDoSed. I need to shut off all the public internet, but I just need traffic still to go to my offices around the country, around the world, and that sort of stuff. I needed also the ability to restore. A lot of people forget that piece. Taking the firewalls down and dropping them down, or taking down equipment, is not a simple thing in today's world because there's so much interdependencies and things change and shift. If you're in manufacturing, it's a real nightmare. You can't just shut off a server. You have to shut down everything in sequence and bring it back up in sequence. But that ability of how to define cushionability and say, okay, so this is going to affect my ability to be able to degrade my service without destroying the business. Okay? How's it going so far? Everybody buzzed about cushionability. You're not going to dream about it, I hope. Right? I do have to raise my hand. Resistance. So this is an interesting one, and it's something that's evolving, and it's something we normally think about, redirecting the attack. Now, we do it with DDoS controls, with telcos and stuff like that. It's kind of a fun journey, but we don't, so for some of the vendors, those telcos, they don't like it to stay on all the time because it breaks things. But there are new technologies or new trends coming, like deception. Rebranded honeypots. It's a bit like how risk management became GRC. It's the same thing, but it's improved. The deception technologies allow us to redirect and detect somebody, so they're not attacking that server, they think they're attacking something else. I can redirect their attention to something else. But it's an interesting philosophy. We don't necessarily have all the tools. I don't know if anybody else has any idea of alternatives, but for me, there's a couple of things also coming out. The software-defined network. That's a brilliant thing. I can redirect and zone people off. If I've got a server that's kind of under intense being attacked, I can put it into a zone where it's got increased protection or increased scrutiny or monitoring and that sort of stuff. DDoS. The network team. Now, I must admit for me, the security team and the network team should live together and be happy. But a lot of times, there's kind of a conflict in the whole thing, purely because the network team and all the operations teams are all focused on, hey, everything's up and running. If it's all green, I've got no problems. I can sit back and use my terminal to go and access a website and infect my workstation in the data center. Yes, I've had that. Security operations people, we're their worst nightmare. Because when it's all green, what do we think? Exactly. No, that is it. We look for problems. But when we want to start sharing information and start working together, the network team is a great enabler because we have the same goals. I have this thing of kind of philosophy about the closer it gets to the processor, the more expensive the incident. So if it's on the server, it costs a lot of money. If I can stop it at the network, it's going to cost me less in the instance. Who looks after the network? The network team. So you obviously need to have resistance. It's no point having resistance if you can't detect it. So you have to have detection. You also have to have the response processes in place, right? And also, for me, decision points. And a lot of times when I get credibility with the business, I'll have predefined decision points so that they will automatically start saying, yes, Paul, take this action now. Don't bother to ring me at 4 o'clock in the morning. but make sure you start articulating that conversation about, okay, if this happens and I want to redirect, if I see somebody trying to pummel this particular credit card vendor, do I want to do something else? How do I want to handle that? That sort of thing, right? Can I redirect it? Can I invoke another SOC team? And this is a honeypot. Okay? See, interesting server this way, honey. That's supposed to be a piece of honey. Okay, I know. I'm not a graphics wizard. I describe myself as one step above caveman art. Okay, robustness. Right, hardening. We know this, right? But the thing is, we've all focused on pen testing and patch management and stuff like that. Guess what? We all know security is not just about vulnerabilities. It's about people making mistakes, process errors, AppSec, and that sort of stuff. So you have to have the controls in place for having putting the appropriate controls in the right place. I got thrown out of a panel one time because I said you should never say no straight away to a business question. And they said, that's wrong. I said, no, if you say no, they'll just work around you. So it's important to understand what the essential functions are, right? And that's how you do your business risk management. I was talking about BIAs. Everybody know what a BIA is? Yeah, business impact assessment. Trying to get them built is a journey unto itself. Trying to find good people is very difficult, but it's really, really important. And especially if you can get the business to understand that they need to own that. It's a good way of moving the budget across. They get the business impact assessment, you get the results. That's my budget saved a little bit, right? And I talk about advanced threat defense. Obviously now we need to move beyond just endpoint signatures. We need to have mechanisms so we're getting proactive. We're seeing the threat feeds, we're seeing the instant automation orchestration stuff. I was just in the machine learning session. All this stuff is going to give us advanced threat. But having that advanced threat detection and defeat, we also need to be agile in our defense mechanisms as well. And that's how we can harden. So hardening is not just hardening the server and doing a harden, but it's also how do we harden so when something does happen, we can respond effectively. Okay? Redundancy. This is a pretty thing, elemental capacity. I love that word, elemental capacity. But it's just obviously the stuff we're used to. But the important thing for me is sometimes if something fails over and we don't know about it because the server team doesn't tell us, or the network starts falling over and you don't have the communications, you really need to do that. Automated failover for your own infrastructure is important. This is stuff resonates easy. There's nothing challenging here. It's not like redirection, which is a challenge for us. But the most important thing for me is test it. I might have told you the story about how I had a huge infrastructure of Active Directory servers across the world. And I had a team that used to do security assessments. And they went off, and Microsoft said, you cannot back up Active Directory, you can't restore, you can't do anything. Okay. So we set up like that one server over here that was delayed by an hour, or like by 12 hours, so it would see the data and hold it. So if somebody mucked up on the central AD forest, it wouldn't replicate straight across and corrupt that particular backup. So my team goes out and they go to a site, and they've literally, this data center, there's a path from this server to this rack of tapes in this room, and it's actually worn out the path. It's worn through the plastic floor, the linoleum floor. I said, what are you doing? Oh, that's the Active Directory server. Huh? We're doing? We're backing it up. Didn't think you could back up an Active Directory server. Okay. How do you restore? I don't know. We just back it up, so nobody had to restore. So make sure you test. Okay. Graceful extensibility. This is going to be our biggest challenge. Just our ability to make sure the infrastructure can expand and grow. And you're probably going, okay, Paul, what the hell does that have to do with security? Remember, we're advisors. We help the business. When they build architectures, we have to think about this stuff because they might not think about it. The challenges of cloud. How do we do it if we get an outage in one part of the world and the cloud provider disappears? How do we do that? How do I expand for capacity? How do I shift capacity around? And with hybrid cloud, which seems to be the new thing, everybody's had this realization that having loads of cloud providers is really, really expensive. It's actually more expensive than running your own cloud in your infrastructure. And so people are going, wow, it's telling us to be more expensive. Now hybrid cloud is the big thing, and so now your data can be bouncing around all over the place. So you have to think about that. But how could you leverage the cloud? Right? Automated provisioning, all these things. For me, it's all about visibility. being able to see it happening and be able to track it. So when they do add capacity, you know about it. That's my biggest challenge with cloud, is if you've got security tools and they add on like 1,500 servers in one day, how do you track and know about it and know it's valid and that they're authorized to do that and it was done through the right provisioning process? Because you will see situations where new cloud instances will appear and you don't know who owns them. It's a bit like file shares. You know, everybody had responsibility for tracking down who owns the file share and making sure that sort of stuff. Yeah, guess what now? You're going to be responsible for tracking who owns that bloody server in the cloud, okay? So we're going to have that. And also for me, predictive capacity management. This is an area where I think we could get better at it. We tend to just monitor in the moment when we don't ourselves think about predictive capacity, and it's seasonal and it's going to change. So those are the 5 parameters that I've tried to translate from the physical security world to our world of security and the sort of things that we're dealing with, right? That's great. So you've got new ways of talking about it. And you could say, okay, is this technology going to make it more cacheable, more robustness? Does it allow me to do graceful extension and contraction? Okay, how do you do that? So those are the 5 factors. I like this. I need to put my arm up. It's like, please, sir. Right, so measuring. As I said, remember at the beginning I said measuring is the key thing. If you can't present it, it's not worth doing. Blunt here. So I'm a sci-fi person. I don't like murders, thrillers. I spend my whole life dealing with that on a daily basis and being asked, what are you worrying about? I'd rather go into an artificial world where the world, everybody, the good people win and the bad people. But this for me is what, in the end, cyber resilience is all about. We know it's going to happen, but we need to be flexible and agile, okay? Also, I have a statement, and this is kind of, it's a rule for talking to executives. The higher you get up an organization, the less you should communicate to them. And you're going, huh? No, the executives, they don't want to know the details. They trust you. Believe in yourselves. They know you're the experts. They might test you occasionally, but they want it short, sharp, and sweet. So, you know, it's like sometimes if you go into a meeting, especially if you're new in an organization, just listen. Just absorb the information, and then that one statement will be far more impactful. It's like I work with the Japanese. Anybody work with the Japanese? So there's a wonderful hierarchy in the Japanese. And I was in this meeting, and I was sorting out firewalls, etc. And I had FedEx deliver me a firewall that was bent, literally bent. And a bit of a disaster and things like that. They were really good about it. And I'm in the meeting, and there's this guy in the corner. He's at the head of the table, very quiet, doesn't say anything. I present, we debate and everything. And then this guy says, Paul, have you thought about this? And if I could have, I said, well, no, but, and I got kicked under the table. Let me see about it. He was the boss. He didn't say anything. But that one sentence was what mattered. And everybody else realized what he said was important. So getting back to this thing, in security, we have a unique world where everything we present has to be the truth. We can't lie about a DDoS. We can't lie about a piece of malware. We can't lie about data breaches. We have to come up front and be brave enough to sit there and say, yes, I mucked up. I'm getting there. This was success, and sharing success is one of the other things. But I need to be able to do it in a way that the executive really gets it. So this is the tool. All go, ooh. Boy, you're gullible. So, no. For me, it was really fascinating because basically what it's showing here, I have a laser. Okay, this is basically time going along here. And putting it simply, this is the impact level, right? And so we declare an incident throughout here, right? And then we start mitigating down here. We start responding. And the level of impact, how much degradation is here, and how long it took us to do here, and how long did it see before we recovered. It's a really nice, simple, damn stupid graphic. I can present that to an executive, and they can go, great. Are we improving? Are we failing? But, I'll show you. So it's also mathematical. So the first time you present it the first time, they all go, ooh, and glaze over. And then after that, you've done it, right? And it's DHS studies and stuff, so you can use that. Now, okay, so this is going to be a test, except I can give you away the bloody answer down the bottom. Damn it, okay. So this is a good example where actually what's happened, we saw the incident, we had not much impact, short amounts of like down sort of real impact time and fast recovery. And guess what? We actually improved the capabilities of the organization, our security team. That's the hoo-yah, okay? This one, okay. We detected, we degraded very, very quickly, short amount of time, but, you know, we recovered. Which one looks better visually? Okay, people say, okay, the deeper it is, the more red I see, and the deeper and the wider it is. This one's like, okay, not as much time, but an extended amount of outage time and an extended business impact time, right? And this one's like, yee, horrible. This is very fast degradation. So you didn't catch it in time, bang, down it goes. Short amount of time for you to start putting in places. You're recovering, but you haven't recovered yet. You're not back to full operation. So you can present these, and now all of a sudden, instead of you having to do numbers and things like that, you have numbers in a graph that can actually show you how you've improved, not improved, etc., and start justifying things. It's a very clever technique. And I don't think, but I think this is great because for an executive, once you get these, you can have this in a little corner of an incident report, and they go, ooh, picture, yes, okay, I understand what that is. Ooh, yes, you did better. How does it compare? Okay, here's how we did before in this situation or in general. Great way of working it. So I like that. I don't know if you like it, but I thought it was good. So, bing. Bing. Da. Okay. So, how am I doing for time? I have no idea. Okay. So, for me, if you think about those 5 terms, which you're going, cushionability, resistance, robustness, etc. How do I map my tools to that? And I am thinking about trying to map, say, like a firewall. How does that affect your cushionability? Well, it doesn't. Does an IDS help you with your capacity, your ability to expand? Maybe not. The key thing for me is it's actually how you handle and manage those systems that matter. It's the processes and the procedures that make the difference. So when you're starting to present your strategies to your businesses, and this is a different way of thinking, and I've used it myself, and it's worked well. I've always had a reputation for increasing my security budget. I can share those techniques at some point. But you don't just present the technology, but you talk about how it's going to impact your cyber resilience and how the processes and procedures and the technologies combine together to create a more resilient environment. Because now they all understand, I mean, every CEO is claiming credit for, if you don't know, you've been, you either hacked or you don't know you've been hacked yet, sort of thing. You know, they all know that now. The executives understand that. So you can actually use this. So do they tick the boxes? It's just a different way. If I get a chance, I'll actually put something up and send it to the countermeasure team, so how I map in the processes for each one of the technologies and how I think you could improve a process or way you respond to improve those 5 aspects. So when you present it to an executive, you say, okay, here's my justification for how we do things, right? Because you want to get to this, yeah? Do you understand that now? The first time I presented it, I got the, well, that. Now you know that's a good position. Your executives know a good position. I mean, to be honest, you're not going to get that every single time, okay? If you are, you're a genius, okay? Even though, to be honest, when you're going into security operations, you do want to target that and make sure it's not just your metrics, but it's the business metrics. Make sure you're representing the other parts of the organization in that number. Take credit for somebody else's ability to be able to do things better, faster, more effectively, and more securely, and more in compliance. That's an important aspect. So that was it.